Hey, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of the Wisdom Seat podcast. I'm your host, Bill Moriarty. Today, I'm sharing a recent conversation with Michael Carroll and members of our community that we titled Vajrayana and the 21st Century Paradox. It was a really moving discussion and touched on both the depth of the tradition and the intense complexity of these times we find ourselves in. And I think you will definitely find something in it that stays with you. Enjoy. Hey everyone, so this is our monthly mindful gathering, and Michael Carroll agreed to come and talk with us tonight. The topic for this one is Vajrayana and the paradox of the 21st century. And so let's figure out what that is right off the bat. So if we're setting our terms, can you talk to us about what is Vajrayana and what do you mean by this paradox?
Yeah. And thank you. Thank you for everyone being here, and thank you for inviting me to be here.
Of course.
I appreciate it. The notion of this paradox, I'm sure some of us here I've been in conversation about this topic before. Essentially, there's a particular spiritual dilemma, a paradox that we find ourselves in this modern time. One part of it is how fortunate we are. The resources that we have at our advantage we're wildly endowed. And the books, if you want to get into the real meat of it, it's the best book on this is Steven Pinker's book called Enlightenment Now. There's another earlier book by a guy named Easterbrook called Progress Paradox. We have to give him proper cred because he was the guy who started researching this dilemma to begin with. But nonetheless, essentially, the bottom line is the experience that we're having right now, this very split second, by any conventional measurement, is better than 99 and 9/10% of all the human beings that ever lived. Whether it's healthcare, literacy rates are going up, poverty rates are going down, healthcare is going up for the world. It goes on and on. There's a lot of data on this. I mean, just sitting here, right, with warmth, light, electricity, et cetera, et cetera. So we're very fortunate. We're wildly endowed, extremely fortunate to be alive. That's one side of the paradox. The other side of the paradox, I don't think I need to tell everybody about, is there seems to be an increasing level of madness that is defining our experience of being alive as human beings. Whether it's having to witness, I think I saw today an article on Ukraine, and they estimate, and these are well thought through estimations, that as many as 500,000 people on the Russian side have been killed. Okay, it's just, it's amazing, absolutely amazing. And then there was what happened in Delhi the other day with pollution. People can't even go outside their house. And we can go on in, the madness of our politics, not just here, but also around the world. So here we are, and also individual depression, suicide is skyrocketing in many countries. South Korea, for example. I think that the third largest cause of death for young people in the United States, the third highest, is the use of guns. They die by guns. So we have a plague of weaponry as well around this country, around this world. So here we are in this paradox. It's a spiritual paradox. On the one hand, we're very fortunate, wildly endowed. On the other hand, we're confronting cruelty and madness and suffering. So that's the paradox. There you go.
So was humanity's expectation that the peace and happiness would be coming with all of this technological advancement?
Yeah, I think from a Buddhist point of view, there's an existential misunderstanding about being alive, which is that we deserve life to behave itself and deliver seamless pleasure and happiness and anything that gets in the way is a threat. That's basically the misunderstanding.
So we have the paradox idea, and what is Vajrayana?
There's three vehicles. Yana is vehicle. Vajra means diamond or indestructible. But there's three vehicles. There's the Hinayana, Mahayana, and Vajrayana. Hinayana is the foundational vehicle. And vehicle meaning a way to travel your spiritual path. And it's foundational in the essence of it is exploring the futility of one's confusion, dismantling it systematically and gently with skill, and in the process discovering or at least glimpsing what one had been confusing oneself about. The Mahayana, or the vehicle of the Bodhisattva, is once one works with those dynamics of dismantling one's futility and confusion, one glimpses something vast about one's presence and reality that makes it almost impossible not to fall in love with your world. And this quality of falling in love is both unbearably painful and unspeakably joyful simultaneously. And one travels that path, which is called the Bodhisattva path, and through traveling that path, one becomes increasingly awake, an awakened being, Bodhisattva. The Vajrayana then is the final, or the diamond path, and the thing that marks the Vajrayana is that one begins that journey by noticing and gaining confidence in being awake. That the view is the key. You're not postponing being awake. You're not aspiring necessarily to being awake, but you notice that it's an unavoidable reality. And how do you work subtly with that unavoidable reality? Because what tends to happen is we panic. So how do you dismantle panic?
Well, why are you calling this this provocative title, Vajrayana and the 21st Century Paradox? Is there something you're seeing why, this is a good fit, or this is a applicable time?
Yeah, I think so. I think often this paradox of witnessing, for instance, a lot of us are going through a lot of self-reflection on the recent election and these kinds of things, that it appears that it's deeply threatening or distressing. But from the Mahayana point of view, the Bodhisattva's point of view, it's not a threat, it's an invitation. Mm-hmm. And the quality of the invitation from a tantric or Vajrayana point of view, no delight, no courage. In other words, the path is not just about opening yourself to the suffering of the world. It's also opening yourself to the delight of being awake. So the Vajrayana is not particularly hesitant to celebrate the brilliance of being alive. But it doesn't underestimate the suffering. Mm-hmm. It's duly impressed by the cruelty and madness, but it's not blinded by it. There's still this thing called the sky, which is like pretty impressive.
Yeah. Right. Yeah, so these can be small moments, like this noticing flowers.
Getting wet in the shower.
Enjoying your coffee.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Does this relate to, I haven't read about this, what I hear about, like we're in the Dark Ages. Mm-hmm. Is that related to what we're talking about?
The reason why the paradox, I use the paradox as a way of entering into that conversation, that the quality of what we call the Dark Ages, which technically means a particular period in the medieval times in Central Asia, technically, if you go and talk to scholars. But in other contexts, it was a prediction that materialism was going to burst its banks at a certain point. And
we're in that. That's now.
That's right. And,
how would you know?
Well, some of the ways they described it was that weaponry would become a very large plague, weapons. Well, we happen to have 21,000 nuclear weapons hidden around the planet, so no one knows where they are. So I think that's not a bad definition.
Are you finding any difference in how you're going about your day-to-day life, knowing that's the state we're in now? Or is this a continuation of the practice you've been doing for your life?
Well, no. The issue is the reason why we're so confused is because we're frightened by our experience. We're panicking, and you could be, all the way back in the caveman times or all the way now. There's a sense of panic about being alive, and we tend to feel threatened by being human, not open. And at some point, that threat began to expand rapidly. And in my opinion, at least historically, that pretty much started with the industrial age, where now we were externalizing all kinds of machinery to attack one another, to protect ourselves, to take over land, that kind of thing. So now we're at a point where we can pretty much, what I call anesthesia. You have kids addicted to things so that they don't have to pay attention to reality. So it's a very sophisticated kind of numbing of the human mind to reality.
Mm-hmm. You have grandkids, you have kids. Do you have any recommendations or any thing you're seeing of how to work with computers, how to work with phones, how to work with these kind of the current state of what those tools are? Because they can be numbing, right? But if we're talking the other way, maybe the Vajrayana approach is the medicine is in the poison, right? Is that possible?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, this is great to see our friends here. So it's not I think that the issue here, the metaphor I use is the Vajrayana sees the sacredness of the blade before it's used to heal or harm, right?
Yeah.
So it's all of the brilliance of being human. These computers, the lights, clean water, transportation. There is a brilliance, a majesty, frankly, to the fact that human beings, can actually do that. But when it's an expression of panic and fear, then we begin to see that it takes on a different life, where technology becomes more like anesthesia than it does becoming into a kind of a creative process. But it's subtle, it's subtle because a lot of people use their computers. We all do, and we're good people. It's not like we're like computers are evil, make them go away. It's pretty much how society arranges itself around fear rather than wisdom. Is this what everybody came here to hear about us? Hopefully. Is there anybody here for a Pilates class? Okay.
Well, as you've taken, with your business books, as you've taken that kind of approach into a workplace, as you're helping guide organizations, how do you advise people in the working world there's still deadlines and there's things you have to get done, work with that situation when their general view is changed of what life is?
Well, when you're in that world, and I still do a lot of consulting with scientists and various stuff, I don't come in and go, hey man, you need to learn to meditate and take your bodhisattva vow, okay? I don't do that. But I would suggest, if you're a Buddhist and you're in a complicated work arrangement, that the key there is your bodhisattva vow. What happens often when we go to work is can I make enough money to pay my bills? And it's all reasonable, don't get me wrong. But if your motivation is to help all sentient beings, help others, that motivation often clarifies a lot of the confusing elements to difficult organizational settings. So to the degree to which one is inclined to inspire the best in others and to help others, is the degree to which you're going to become less toxified by the situation.
Okay.
The other approach, and I think this is very Vajrayana, is what I call BC-do. BC-do.
Okay.
So there's conduct, meditation, and action, right? Those three. You're familiar with that?
Yes.
Yeah. So in order to conduct yourself skillfully as a Vajrayana practitioner in organizational settings, the first thing is you need to know how to be. That's the first thing. Most of the times we think, oh, I need to know what to do. I have to master this skill, that skill. I have to have a good resume. I have to be able to execute on time. I got to complete the project. All good stuff. Absolutely. Of course.
Mm-hmm.
For the Vajrayanist, the first is resolve how to be. And that has to do with presence. Synchronized presence. So be, then see. Once you be, now you can see. Because you can see the situation clearly. As I say to senior executives all the time, you're not getting paid for what you do for a living. You're getting paid for what you see for a living. The more senior you are, you get paid for what you see, not what you do. So seeing, having the view is key. So some level of awakened view coming from the sense of presence, then do what you're doing. Whatever you do.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Yeah, that's good. You use this phrase a lot, dog in the fight. How do you help in this when you don't have a dog in the fight? And what do you mean by not have a dog in the fight?
Well, a dog in the fight is a kind of a strategy phrase, meaning, you might be witnessing a conflict and you may actually want it to go in a particular direction. But honestly, you don't really have any win-lose investment here. Mm-hmm. But from the Bodhisattva point of view, it's even if you don't have a dog in the fight, your heart is broken by the suffering of those who do. So you never give up on anything. You never give up. But being skillful, you don't have to jump in. You have to. Timing is always key. You don't have to jump in and try to solve every problem that comes your way.
Yeah. No, people don't like that.
Now, how does one help? And my approach, and frankly, for me personally, it's a lot of fun. And what I basically call it is confident kindness. Confident kindness. Often when we hear Buddhist kindness, it's like, you should be kind to everybody, man. Put honey and butter on everything. No, we're talking about a sense of presence that is strong, confident, clear-minded, but kind and soft. And that should be expressed to everyone we bump into. That's what we generally refer to in the way I've been trained as authentic presence. It has a softness toward others.
An audience member asks, I'm wondering about the Vajrayana emphasis on view, even when dealing with difficult situations like violence or conflict.
I think that this quality of not being blinded by the confusion is key. However, the distinction in the Vajrayana is the primary issue in the Vajrayana is view, is the awakened view. And as Vajrayanists, one is loyal with unshakable devotion to experiencing the unborn, timeless quality of being and the luminous aspect of being, the profoundness of that, and becoming familiar with that. Now that view is very clarifying. It's very easy to be kind to people with that view. And you can see there, with that view, you can see maybe that they want to be kind as well, even though they're cranky pants, Okay. And you can play and be and nourish and cultivate, Yeah.
And to tack on to that, since we're talking about Easterbrook, I just want to make, as I understand it, this idea of the paradox, this has been going on for at least decades,
Yeah.
and will continue for hopefully decades or hundreds of years of that, like we don't lose all our technological advancements. But it's that you like to use the idea of when someone gets hurt, a hospital backs up to your house with all this expertise in medicine to help. But people are still very lonely. Like there's a lot of loneliness going on. So I think the idea of what we're talking about is this selection is a little thing within it, but it is global, and we've been in it, we're in it, and it's going to continue for a long time.
I think it's very well said, you know. This is the environment we're in as bodhisattvas and Vajrayanas. It's not that we want to necessarily, hey, why didn't this get solved by now? What happened here? No, this is the environment that we're in, and it's our job to help. It's our job.
An audience member asks, when I meet people at the dog park who are clearly decent and kind, but hold political views I find frightening, how do I apply this Buddhist view of seeing clearly to understand what's really driving them, rather than just dismissing them?
I love the dog park metaphor, and I've used it many a time, because in the four immeasurables, right? Kindness, compassion, sympathetic joy, and equanimity. How do you embody those? How do you actually embody? It's one thing to say, may all beings be happy. It's a great aspiration. But how do you embody them? And when you go to a dog park, you see joy everywhere with the dogs, and this quality of just opening to that joy is a bodhisattva gesture. And that quality, what Trungpa Rinpoche called cheering up, just cheering up, that quality is infectious. And it inspires sanity and kindness and joy in others. That's it. Simple, authentic presence. You know, if you get into a politics conversation, God bless. But it's really the sense of presence and sanity in one's presence that inspires the best in others at a very fundamental level. You know, I think if you just go to the dog park and just stand there, don't even tell people you took your bodhisattva vow, and just keep smiling. I think we're doing half our job right there.
An audience member asks, how do we scale this Buddhist view from showing up differently in our personal circles to actually reaching those empowered who can create systemic change?
From the bodhisattva view, right, the motivation is key. That's fundamental. And the motivation in an organizational setting, in my mind, is that our goal is always to inspire the best in others. That's the main move all the time. Inspiring the best in others. That's the main move. From that, you know, if you're a technologist, you're a data scientist, if you're a physician or a nurse or an engineer or a truck driver, teacher, artist, those are all good things. But the move is to inspire the best in others. Now, if you or anyone here can take that and do what Mother Teresa did and create a sustained global organization of thousands of women who every day help people in the single most distressing time of their life to either help them die or to heal them, God bless. Build it. This is wonderful if you have that ability to do that, if you're Mother Teresa. On the other hand, if you just simply say hello to the bodega person with an authentic smile and they cheer up and realize that life is worthwhile, that's fine too. So from the bodhisattva point of view, the vastness of the view, which is we're on a speck of dust in the midst of infinite space, and human birth is so rare that even the slightest expression of kindness is so profound that the universe is longing. It has an impulse for that expression. It really, to some degree, doesn't matter. And therefore, one must trust oneself and have confidence in oneself that the kindness and the compassion that you express is unconditional for the world. And if you're a Mother Teresa, God bless them. If you're someone who just picks tomatoes and waves to people, and you're a bodhisattva and you're inspiring the best, if you're the story I love telling is about the toll taker. So this guy I met, he had this job as a toll taker from the bridge that goes from Pennsylvania to New Jersey. And he became famous. They wrote a whole article about him in the New Yorker magazine. And he was so proud of it, he was showing it to me. He was kind of a goofy guy. And it's a picture of him outside of this thing, and he's like this, smiling. And the article is, why is this guy so famous? And basically what he would do is, as the car would pull up to pay their toll, he would take their money and he would give an M&M to the person in the car. And if there were kids, he'd give one so they could, and he'd say, have a nice day, in this goofy way. And he would do it the same way every time. Well, it got around among truckers. And the truckers who knew that he was doing it, they would go, he's in number 3, and they'd get in line to get the candy, and they say hi to him. And it became this whole culture around this guy where people wanted to get in his lane to have him say, have a nice day, and give him a candy. Come on.
And let me add something that's helpful to me. When I was started practicing a long time ago, something Trungpa Rinpoche said, and I'm going to paraphrase it.
Sure.
It was something like, you're sitting, you're practicing, you're trying to be a bodhisattva, you're extending kindness to everyone. If you can't do this with your family, you can't take it outside your house. And I would go out and try to be kind to everyone I met and go home and get like, Mom, instantly impatient and pissed off at something going on in my house. And then I realized, you have to do this with yourself too. You can't just beat yourself up and impatiently get out of your house and then try to apply everything. This has to start with your family, everyone who knows every little annoying thing about you, and then you can extend this out.
Very well said. That this sense of tenderness is not a technique.
Okay, thanks for listening, everybody. I hope you enjoyed that conversation as much as I did. Please check us out at thewisdomseat.org and join us. We host these mindful gatherings once a month, and we'd love to see you there.